So we got one of these sisters here that's, sitting up here saying black men didn't build anything and we haven't provided anything. You know what that kind of rhetoric is. Let's go ahead and review it.
My initial question was, what resources have black men provided in their communities for their women, their children, and their fellow black men for the past 40 to 45 years?
No, the right question should be, what men that you're attached to, husband, let's say a husband, what has your husband provided for you and your children? Those resources to make sure that you're taken care of. Understand? All of this is always on the individual basis, and individuals who do it can actually build businesses, etc. So what men are doing it for you, ma'am? Where's your husband? Because usually when questions like this are asked by certain women in our community, 9 times out of 10, they don't even have a husband. They don't. They barely got a boyfriend, if any. But let's continue.
Largely, in part, is little to nothing. Black men have been absent from our community for at least the past 40 to 45 years.
And that is the fault of you're not old enough, but that's the fault of women that come from my mother's generation that chose welfare and feminism over their black man. That's why. Go ahead and tell the history correct. Don't just tell that, oh, the men aren't there. No, tell why they aren't there. Well, and not all men are gone anyway. You probably can't get one.
And I brought that up because y'all quick to always talking about all these women in other communities and going over to different cultures and getting women. And I said that I expect y'all to go over to other communities in other countries.
Okay, she says she expected. The majority of people in the United States don't even have a passport. That's first and foremost. They don't. I think a little bit more than 20% or so of the U.S. population have a passport. 64% of that population makes over $100,000 a year themselves. Okay. A little bit more than 50% of them are bachelor's degree holders or entrepreneurs. This is to talk about that. So who are you talking about? The majority of black men do not hold U.S. passports.
To get women because their men actually provided resources for their women and actually built community for their women so that their actual women could raise their children in many dual parent households.
See, oh boy, okay. Sister, you haven't traveled much. You don't know much, okay? We know this. You know what debunks your argument right there is this. We have a problem in the United States of America right now, a major, major problem. You know, I don't get into politics on this channel. It's not the channel for it, but I got to bring it up for a reason because you kind of brought up some things. We have a major immigration problem in America. People in Latin America, more Latin America than any other place in the world, their men are flooding the United States of America with their women and their children. They're coming in the millions. So what did they actually build? Let's call it what it is. If they really built something, then their women, they would have put their women in dangerous situations to go across many countries to get to the United States of America if they really built something, ma'am. And if you want to compare yourself to them and what they built, some of them don't even make $200 to $300 a month in some of these countries. And the man is the only one that can work because the women are relegated to stay home and take care of those children. Do you want to live their life? Do you want to go to live the life they're living in developing nations? So you could have these quote unquote resources. They fled their countries to come up here. Then when they come up here, the country has been already built. It was already built by our ancestors, right? They didn't build this thing up from scratch. Our ancestors did that. So when they come here, they come to a country already built. They come to a country that have resources that they got access to that me and your ancestors fought and died for. So they can step on me and your back to get these resources, right? Even you have certain Asian groups that come in too. They couldn't make it where they homeland. They left too, to come over here to America, and America gives them certain benefits that they will not give even me and you, sis. So what resource they really providing when they're flooding America like that? People who have resources, they don't run from their countries. They don't do that.
To allow them to be trained as wives. Their women have literally had the opportunity to rest in her feminine energy, raise her children appropriately, do all those things that you're looking for her man, for her men, because their men actually provided resources and provisions in the community for them.
Wrong. We covered that part. The part about the women. Outside of America, outside of the Western nations, okay? Feminism and the matriarchy is not allowed. It is the patriarchy and traditional family roles is what rules Latin America, is what rules African nations, is what rules the Caribbean, is what rules, Arab nations, Asian nations. It rules that. And some European nations too. I'll go to a country that's like Turkey, for instance, right? Turkey has a European side and it has a Asian side. I've been I went to Turkey back in January. It was cool. I really liked Turkey. Istanbul was cool. Went to a couple other cities. It was nice. But one thing I appreciated about Turkey, right? It wasn't all this feminism going on. It wasn't all this you just being liberal, weighing anything you want. Oh no, the women were respectful. The society was respectful. Now that's an Islamic country, but still, in these other countries, ma'am, they got some order. They got some shaming too. If you're going to get out of line, people will surround you and tell you, hey, put some clothes on. And what you're not doing, taking care of your family, you expect it in these other countries to be a wife and take care of your doggone family, just like men are expected to provide for that family, to take care of their children on their own without no help from no woman. That's expected. You should be promoting more so the traditional family, family structure that we even had in our own community. But obviously you haven't traveled, I can tell.
For their entire community. Western men are the only ones who think things like cooking and cleaning and taking care of their own children are gender roles.
It is. It's okay, like for a man that he want to make something. Like a lot of men like to barbecue, smoke different meat. Like we live in the South, right? So people like to, have crawfish balls. Men like outside things. A lot of men like to do. I don't really see women doing all the barbecuing, the crawfish balls, anything outside, right? Inside is more so the domain of what the woman wants, right? You talking about you want traditional family roles. You want the man to do this and do that. So the man's supposed to go out there and provide and then come in here and cook and clean for you. He's supposed to sit up here and wash your clothes and do everything while you sit around and do nothing? The majority of the world works on a traditional family system. It is this Western society that has a perverted family structure. And that's why in America, people aren't happy. People aren't happy because they don't have family anymore. Family brings community. Community is something that people need. Some people may call it the village. When I go to African countries, I still see that family structure over there. I see how they get down, how they, work together on some things, certain things within their particular ethnic groups. I really appreciate that because I remember a lot of that happening right here in the United States in the South. Some of it elements are still there, but as these other, generations go along, it's getting away. And that's the sad part. I still remember going to my grandma's house on Sundays. I still remember that everybody had to be there. Everybody. It wasn't no choice why you wasn't there unless you was in a hospital somewhere. I remember all the women being in the kitchen and all the men, is waiting. When it's time to clean up, all the men throw away the trash. That's what they had to do. Or lift something heavy. Hey, could you go to the grocery store and could you get, the X, Y, and Z, or whatever so we can cook something? Fine. The men will go get that, bring it back so the women can cook it. The women don't give no money to the man. You just go get what was being told and you pay for it and bring it back. You make sure to keep them children out the kitchen as men. I remember, and y'all probably don't remember, some of you do. I remember that the men were served first. I remember that too, in our own community. And nothing was wrong with that. Nothing at all. You're complaining of the loss of family structure.
Cooking and cleaning are actually life skills, things that are necessary for you to be able to survive on this planet. I never said anything about Pookies and Ray Rays, but let's examine that too. Pookie and Ray Rays are a lot of the offspring of Generation X. A lot of these men that you're talking about who... No. Pookie and Ray Ray's always been around in the community. That's just beyond with you. Pookie and Ray Ray was around when I was a kid. I mean, come on. I mean, you can just do your research. It's always been a Pookie and Ray Ray element. But, you know, there's a Pookie and Ray Ray in every community. So, I mean, come on, ma'am. I mean, you mean to tell me they had no dudes dealing drugs, no dudes running numbers back in the day, no dudes in no kind of organized crime, people like Bumpy Johnson and none of that was going on. It just Pookie and Ray Ray showed up in the supposedly, that means my kids, right? That means my kids will be the introduction of Pookie and Ray Ray. Like, are you freaking serious? Can build and who can now afford to do X, Y, and Z, who have not built resources in their community for their children and for their women. These Pookies and these Ray...
Wait. Building resources for their children and their women. We can only have one woman. It's the only thing we can have. In America now, if y'all trying to change the game and, you know, getting some polygamy going, okay, that's different. I mean, shoot, that's the last thing that need to happen in America, to be honest. You got LGBTQ going on. I mean, that should be the next step, right? But as I told you before, resources are individual basis. Your man provides resources for you and your children. He don't provide for a community. That's not his job. The community benefits when you have a bunch of family structure and people getting together. That's different in building in the community. But you can never build a community with a bunch of single mothers, because single mothers don't build communities. Men do that.
Rays are many of these men's and Generation X's offspring. Black women stuck around in the communities and have literally been raising a community full of daddyless children since 1985 and up, due to the crack cocaine epidemic that was led primarily by whom? We're not saying that y'all can't leave us and go to other communities. I just want y'all to recognize that the reason why y'all are leaving is because y'all failed to build resources in the Black community for your women and children.
No, that's not why people who choose to do that. And one thing I can't stand about the internet is that you take the minority, because it is the minority. You take the minority of men who's saying that and you blow them up like they're the majority. They're not the majority. The majority of Black men are with Black women. Even some of them men that say they're leaving, that means they're leaving the modern American woman. Didn't say Black women. Some of these men are going to African countries and getting with women over there. That's Black women. Some of these men have been going to Caribbean countries, getting with women. Some men have been going to places like Guyana. They've been going to Belize and, you know, or different places in Latin America. They do have there's more Black people in Latin America than they have in the United States. If you want to talk about that. So who's to say that all these men are going to people of other communities? That's not true. Some are, but not all. But they're not doing it for that reason you're talking about. They're doing it because the American system is so anti-family. The American system, you know, when you look at the marriage laws, how the no-fault divorce, the child support, all these things are strikes against men. Then on top of all of that, in the system of America, they got to deal with the entitlement in America, the attitude, All the things that go along in modern American women's society. So these men are saying, you know what? I prefer to possibly go to a place where traditional family settings are still respected and demanded. I'm willing to go do that because I got the money to. Because one thing that she's not talking about, most of these men who's traveling, they got money. They're not broke. They don't owe child support because you can't travel if you owe child support. They definitely got a, business. Some of them are digital nomads. That's always been a problem with this conversation. It's all about the money. They know the men that travel got money, period. But ma'am, provision is on the individual basis. Now, men can create businesses to provide jobs. For instance, I have created, a company that do provide jobs for black women, right? Let me run down, how many black women actually work with me. So I'm a black man that actually meet what you just talked about. So we created a company. Anybody know I started in the bathroom in my apartment, in front of the shower curtain. Anybody remember me all the way back in the day? Some of you still here, you remember. Going from that to where we are today. My graphic designer who makes all these beautiful thumbnails, she's a black woman from Atlanta. The lady, the company that runs my website, my IT, black women that run that. I have 2 hosts as of right now, black women, which is Sister Demetria, Sister Wangel. She's from Ethiopia. You have Sister Vicky comes in. At least we're talking about my news channel, right? Another black woman. And all these black women that have done, even black women that came in the past, anything you do things with us, we're going to make sure that you're compensated for it. But the people that do work for us all the time, the people I mentioned in the beginning, we have to cut checks for them every month. That is me as a black man building something and providing a resource for black women in America and even in the continent of Africa. And also I got black men, of course, doing things with me as well. So I'm one black man of many that have created a resource for black women. But first, I had to create a resource for my family. And out of me creating a resource out of my family, then I could spread that to other people within the community. Correct? A man can't spread nothing if he didn't build it with his own personal family. That's why you need to get with a man and build something. Instead of sitting here pointing blame about stuff you don't even know what you're talking about. But, y'all let me know what y'all think with this woman here. Like I said, I've been seeing a couple of her videos. She's been on one. It's too easy to debunk her videos, but this one I say, yeah, let me go ahead on this one because, I'm not going to sit up here and let them lie on brothers like that. And a lot of they talking points, it just don't even make sense.